From Social Prosperity Partners, this is Community Catalysts.
Because in this line of work, success isn't a standing ovation. It's a city that still runs, a crisis that never came, and a public that never knew how close it got.
Welcome to Community Catalysts. I'm your host, Matt Lehrman. Every strong community has people who choose to step up and lead. Some hold elected office, others are hired into positions of trust and authority, and many are called through service, advocacy, or simple determination to make things better. However they arrive, each leader carries hard-earned lessons, stories of challenge, perseverance, and purpose. That's what we do here on this podcast, real conversations with real leaders. By sharing their journeys, the missteps, as well as the breakthroughs, we all gain insight into what it takes to guide communities with integrity, resilience, and heart. My guest today is Brooks Williams. I learned of him through his writing on LinkedIn, where his frequent reflections on municipal leadership impressed me with their candor and kindness. Brooks is the city manager of Ferris, Texas, a small city just south of Dallas. Under his leadership, Ferris has steadied its finances, reinvested in infrastructure, and embraced a philosophy of being what they call distinct by design. Today, I'm especially looking forward to exploring the philosophy that shapes Brooks' work and what he hopes to inspire in other municipal leaders. Brooks Williams, welcome to Community Catalysts.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Glad to actually talk to you in person. I've been reading your post, but to actually have a conversation, I'm thrilled. Brooks, recently you opened one of your posts with these words. I'm going to quote you. "We have the best job in the world. In public administration, you see cause and effect with your own eyes." Now, that line really struck me because it's not just a statement, it's a posture of joy and pride in a field where we don't often hear people speak with that kind of energy. So let's start there. What makes you say that? Who are you, and what shaped you to get into be such an uplifting voice in municipal management?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We don't hear it a lot, right? We tend to focus on the negative parts of this job, and there are plenty of those that we can talk about, right? But the reality of it is point to another profession where we each and every day get to see the fruits of our labor, where we get to look around and say, we impacted another human being's life in a positive way, not just one, but several. And I think that is the joy in this work. And I've been in different professions. I've been on the private side of the world where, you get to make other people money and you get to chase those fun things. But for me, it was a moment where I sat on the edge of my bed and I looked at my wife and I said, is this my life, right? Is this what I'm going to say my life was? A life where I made people a bunch of money. And I didn't want that to be the case. And so I was drawn to public service because I wanted to leave a legacy where I had done something to make the world a better place. And when we look at public service and public administration as a whole, I think that's what we're supposed to be called to do, right? Is make somewhere, someplace, some person's life better than it was before they encountered us. And so I feel like that's my life's calling at this point, is leave it better than you found it and make the world a better place.
Brooks, do you remember, was there a particular moment or situation or instance where you kind of had that revelation where you looked at having done something and said, that's it. That's exactly why I do this?
I think there's multiple moments. I'll give you one that I think most people probably wouldn't relate that to. But when I got here, I met with every single department, right? And we talked about what's going well, what's not going well, what do we need to change, where can I help you? And when I met with public safety, what they said is, we don't want to do death notifications anymore. Our job's hard enough without doing death notifications. It's just a complete drain on us as people, and it's something that we don't want to do. And we had a chaplain that was retiring. We do have a chaplaincy program in our city. And I said, I'll take that on. I'll take that role and I'll do it. And we had one year in particular where we had 14 suicides in our community. And what actually made me realize the impact I was making was that year when I met with every one of those 14 families and delivered that difficult news. But then I also got to be with that family and walk through that tragedy with them, and help them come out of that tragedy. And I think that's what really made me realize, what other profession do we get to do that? What other profession do we get to really lock arms with people who are struggling and help them solve the challenge that's facing them in that day? And we get to do it, while it may seem boring, from water and sewer and streets and parks and public safety. We get to do that in every aspect of our job. And I think it was really those moments that made me realize the impact that we can have as public servants.
What made you want to be the person to deliver that kind of notice? That seems like exactly the kind of thing you would hope to delegate to, if you will, a professional in the field.
Sure. Listening to the people who said they didn't want to do it. And I think my job as a leader sometimes is to say, I'll take that burden for you. If that's what makes you dread your job, if that's what makes you not want to be in this profession anymore, but everything else that you do, you feel like is what's calling you to this profession, then how can I help and how can I take that off your plate? And so that's why I did it. And for me, too, I'll tell you, it connected me to our community in a way that I never expected. It made me appreciate people in a way that I had never appreciated them before. And I think also what it did was connect the community to the city manager's office in a way that I don't think the community had ever experienced. I think it made me approachable, personable. And I think people go out and talk about those experiences that they have and realize that there's a heart behind the office, because it's very difficult in our jobs. I tell people this all the time, to be nice and administer a city, because you've got to say no a lot. There's a lot of no's that have to get distributed. And so people begin to look at you as this this dream killer, if you will, that lives in the city manager's office, right? And so I think that really helped connect me to the community. And again, it relieved a portion of my staff that that's just not what they wanted to do. And so I think it built our camaraderie as well.
Hey, Brooks, I don't want to hold the audience in suspense any longer. I think they really should hear what your LinkedIn posts sound like. And if I could ask you in your own words, could I ask you to read one of your posts for us?
Sure. I'm happy to read one. So this was from about a month ago. The ignorance surrounding local government is rarely about access. The information is everywhere. Websites, press releases, newsletters, public meetings, signage, mailers, even the phones in our pockets. The problem is not that people cannot know. The problem is that people often choose not to know. American politics has trained the public to believe that civic life is simple. Lower taxes, higher services, faster results, and anyone who says otherwise must be lazy or corrupt. We even have the public believing the lies our politicians tell you, that you can choke cities to zero tax revenue and still receive services. We have conditioned voters to treat governing like college football. Pick a side, scream at the other, and pretend the scoreboard proves something about reality. But reality doesn't work that way. Running a city is reconciling demands that are mathematically impossible to satisfy at once. Roads are not just asphalt. They are drainage, utilities, bid laws, traffic patterns, and contracts worth millions. Delays are not red tape. They're sequencing, capital, inspections, and coordinations across a dozen moving parts, and most are impacted by the applicant, not the city. Every choice is wrapped in laws, audits, and financial limits. Demanding cities do everything faster, cheaper, and prettier without trade-offs is like asking a cow to win the Kentucky Derby. You can saddle it up, but it's never going to run like a horse. You can demand lower taxes and more services. You can freeze budgets and still insist on new projects. You can squeeze a nickel until the buffalo poops and still ask for shade trees along a mile-long trail because it would, quote, look prettier. People do it every day, but this is delusion parading as civic engagement, and it has become a defining trait of our society. Delusion is exactly what politics has sold us. We see making demands and fist pounding as civic participation. We hate being told no. We hate being reminded that trade-offs exist. We mistake noise for power, and think shouting into a microphone makes us right. The danger is that people have been conditioned to live in a civic reality that does not exist. A conversation is overdue about reality versus fantasy. We need more civics. We need more willingness to learn before we demand. We need fewer billy goat brains with mockingbird mouths. Because until communities bring both their hearts and their heads into the conversation, local government will remain the scapegoat for a public that has forgotten how reality works. If people keep rewarding fantasy and punishing reality, they will get exactly what they asked for: a government built on noise, incapable of delivering anything that lasts.
It's just beautifully well said.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Brooks, when you share that kind of perspective and that kind of passion publicly on LinkedIn, who are you writing for? Is it for your colleagues? Is it for the residents of your community? Do you think of it as a way to message even to your own city council? Or is it a reminder to yourself? I'm trying to think of, who are you writing to?
It started therapeutically, if you want the truth, right? It started as writing to myself. There's a lot of pressure in all jobs. I think particularly in these public service roles today, there's a lot of pressure, and you feel like a whipping post most days. And so for me, it started as therapeutic. How do I get this off my chest and out of my head? And I think it grew into something where people were relating to it and saying, yes, I feel the same way. And I'm very transparent, right? I send almost every one that I write to my mayor and council so that they know the words that are coming out of my mouth, because I think that's important. One, for them to know the thoughts and feelings, but two, because I don't want to hide anything from them, right? And there is a certain amount of risk in this because there are points where I talk to the responsibilities of councils and the irresponsibility that some councils do take. I've praised my mayor in certain posts that I have put out there and been critical even of certain actions that councils, including mine, have taken and what responsibilities I think that they do have. But it started, again, kind of as therapeutic for me.
A lot of people in public service describe feeling worn down by politics and criticism and the weight of responsibility. How do you keep such a positive and encouraging outlook?
I still go back to, we have the greatest job in the world. And even on our worst days, even when we're beat down, I step back and I ask myself, but if I went and did something else, would I have the sense of fulfillment that I do today? There are easier jobs. There are jobs with less stress. There are jobs where I could actually go on a vacation and not carry an iPad and 2 phones with me. That's the reality of it. My mayor and I had a conversation not long ago where he said, I want you to turn your phone off, turn it off. And I said, I love you for saying it, but the reality is that cannot happen, because the moment I do will be the moment a crisis unfolds. And then I'll be the one having to answer why I wasn't available, right? And I'll be blamed for not being accessible. And so for me, being positive about this is, there's no better job in the world. And we get to change people's lives. We get to make decisions today that people that we don't know 10 years from now will be living and experiencing because of what we did. And I don't know too many roles out there that get to say that that's the impact that they have. I don't know of too many roles where in 15 or 20 years, my grandkids will be driving down the road and see the impact of something that I got to have a hand in. And that's lasting impact, in my opinion. And it's not about having a name on a building or a park or a street named after you. To me, that's the last thing on my mind. But it's about building something that people who come later actually don't remember us, but they get to live that experience that we've built for them.
Brooks, there are people who will be listening to this interview and will be wondering, what color is the sky in your world, right? There are a lot of people out there who live in incredibly cynical times.
Yes.
And here you're writing about joy and possibility. Do you see your voice as a counterweight to cynicism? And in this moment, how do you view your role given all the pressures that are going on, especially on local government?
I hope I am a counter to the cynicism. I really do, because what my challenge to all of us in public service, particularly those who are cynical, is what is that doing to change the face of public service and public administration? What are we doing to counter the argument that the public has that we are who we are? When we take that cynical attitude, we are literally playing into the hands of the public, and we are giving their argument weight. And I think we have a responsibility to flip that argument on its head and show that we can be different, and we will be different, and we're going to be different. It's why we have taken the attitude we have here, where you are going to serve the public and you are going to serve it well. We are going to create raving fans out of our public here because we want people to see that government is different. I'm an adjunct professor as well. And one of the things I talk to people about is you need to have pride in being in this industry and doing this service and this work. This is honorable. And I think it got to a place where we moved away from that, and we've become so cynical about the way the public feels and the way the public treats us that we have allowed them to beat us down to a place where we have become what they claimed we were when we knew we weren't that. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but I think we became what we said we weren't. And we've got to change that. We've got to get to a place again where we're positive, where we're excited, where we tune out the noise and we do the work that we know we're called to do.
One of the joys of following you on LinkedIn is that you post frequently, but also it pays to read the comments of the people who are commenting on what you said. There's a lot of positive people. There are a lot of people who say, thank you so much for this. I needed to hear this, and that's great. But it is not without pushback.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious, has the pushback, and some of it's, quite negative or cynical, has it ever mattered to you? Has there ever been a time when someone pushed back and it actually made you second guess yourself as to why you put that out there in the first place?
No, I think I try to read almost every comment, and I'm a learner by nature. And so I love to take what somebody says and step back and think about it and process it. But I also realized a long time ago that if I wanted to make people happy, I should have invested in an ice cream shop, and that should have been my profession. It should not have been to get into public service. And it certainly shouldn't have been to put out there my personal thoughts and feelings. And so everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a right to that opinion. But it does not dissuade me from continuing to post or to share my thoughts in any way.
Have you learned anything from the resistant feedback that's been posted?
Absolutely, I have. I've learned, one, I'm very blessed with the elected officials that I've had the opportunity to engage in. I've learned to appreciate that. I've learned to appreciate my staff, because I think some people are not in enviable positions, whether that's with their supervisor or with their subordinates or with their elected groups. I have learned that there are people that are really in some very precarious situations in the roles that they're serving in really across the country in public service. And so, for me, sometimes a woe is me day, when you start to read some of the comments and understand the experiences that people are living, it makes yours feel a little bit less, right? You start to appreciate a little more what you have. And so I try to learn something from every single person, and certainly those that have strong comments. I will do my best to actually privately message them to have a conversation one-off and understand it more deeply so that I can appreciate what it is they're saying and where they're coming from.
Can I impose upon you and ask you to read another one of your LinkedIn posts?
Sure, absolutely. Let me grab one. They tell you to stay calm. Stay calm when the public is shouting, loud, angry, misinformed. Stay calm when they demand the very thing they voted to cut. Stay calm when they accuse your team of being lazy, inefficient, overpaid, while demanding 24/7 responsiveness and 5-star service. Stay calm when the legislature rewrites the rules again, adds more restrictions, strips more authority, all while smiling for the camera and pointing the blame in your direction. Stay calm when the retired expert tells you how they used to run it better. Stay calm when the business owner tells you how you'd understand the budget if you had to meet payroll. Stay calm when they confuse running a government with running a storefront and still expect you to do both. Stay calm when you're told to block the development, preserve the charm, increase the amenities, lower the taxes, protect the character, pave the roads, hire the officers, and fix the drainage, and do it all with the same staff under a smaller budget with less legal authority than you had last year. Stay calm when your staff starts to crack. Stay calm when your best people walk away. Stay calm when the people who stayed start asking why. Stay calm when you're handed new regulations with old funding. Stay calm when the developers threaten, the legislators grandstand, and the regulators nitpick. Stay calm when the people who say government is broken keep asking you to hold it together. Stay calm. That's the job, right? You're at the center of the fire. You are the one standing between the people and the truth they don't want to hear. You are the one catching heat from both sides, those who want everything and those who want nothing. You are the one who knows what it takes to actually make this machine run, and the one being told daily that you don't know what you're doing. They don't see the map you carry in your head, the competing interests, the legal traps, the fiscal cliffs, the tightrope between service and politics, between law and emotion, between doing what's right and doing what's survivable. They don't see the hours you spend holding the machine together while everyone else tears at the bolts. Some of us know exactly what it feels like to keep the system breathing while it's being dismantled in real time. They won't write stories about what you prevented. They won't measure what you didn't or what didn't fall apart. They won't thank you for choosing function over fanfare. Because in this line of work, success isn't a standing ovation. It's a city that still runs, a crisis that never came, and a public that never knew how close it got. That's the job, not to be seen, to make sure the worst never makes it to their front door.
Talk about that a little bit more, the success that a city manager is responsible for. The success is the viability, the continuation, but not the visibility?
I think that's exactly correct. I think we have to remember we're not the politician, right? Our success is quiet. That's what I tell people all the time. Success is quiet. That's the reality of the world that we live in, is we've done our jobs if people never know that we did our jobs. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think if we're expecting applause, if we're expecting a thank you, if we're expecting those things, it's probably not reality, right? We get back to talking about what is reality, and the reality is that's not going to happen. Our job is to make sure that everything stays the way that it needs to for people to be able to live their daily lives without interruption, and to not expect them to even realize that. And in the most simple analogy I have is, how often do people turn on their water faucets every single day? Nobody that I know of, when they turn on that water, says, "Oh, thank you. Thank you, city. You did your job. I cannot tell you how grateful I am." I've never gotten an email from a resident that says, "I just want to thank you. My water turned on today and my toilet flushed today." Never. But you do know the moment that one of those things does not happen, they're going to be at your front door demanding answers and wanting to understand why it is that you failed them. And that's the reality of the jobs that we have and the world that we live in. And so I think we have to learn to accept that success is quiet.
Respectfully, I would wish to press you on this a little bit. In this day and age, when there is so much misinformation and disinformation and division and separate realities, why not take the position that says we should be applauding competence and professionalism and integrity and the virtue of being able to get the job done solidly, reliably over time?
I think we do. I think we do it in a different way, right? That's why we put our metrics out there. That's why we let people see our performance and understand that we're doing things in a competent way, right? Before I got here, Ferris had not completed a financial audit in 3 years. We were 3 years behind. We had reconciled a bank statement in 2 years. We didn't know how much money we had. We had corruption, lawsuits. We had rampant turnover. The average lifespan of an employee here as an employee was 90 days. That was our turnover.
Wow.
I mean, it was incredible, right? And that has all turned the corner, I think, because of what you just described. competence, right? Doing things the right way, having people who understand the roles that they're in. And we do publish that for our community to see. They can see the difference that we're making. I think the difference there is also, though, we're not looking for applause in that. What we want is for, again, them to be able to live their lives in a way that is least disrupted. And when we weren't functioning as a competent group, their lives were interrupted every single day, from 3 days of water not flowing because we had missed, right? And the system fell apart, to not having law enforcement and fire personnel respond timely because of inefficiencies in the department, to not being able to get a permit processed in 45 days because there was incompetence in the permitting area. All of those things now have changed, right? We publish what is the standard response time, right? What should you see from your public safety as far as response times? And then you see what are ours. And ours are 3 minutes below what the national average is. And we talk about why we can do that and how we can do that and the intentionality behind it. You look at permitting and we show what's it take for us to issue a permit. And it went from 45 days to less than 2 days on the part of the city. So we can issue permits quicker and faster than we ever have before because of competent, intelligent people with strong, solid processes. We process in our municipal court 4 times the average of the cities around us, with a third of the employees that they have, because we have competent people and strong processes. And so we talk about those things and we show what you can do in government if you bring those things together. But I don't think it's ever been built on because we want to be recognized. It's because we want, what we want is to do our jobs and to do it well. And the majority of the people that work here are faithful people, right? And we believe that this is a job of service and it's an act of service, and that responsibility, one, to serve the public, but two, to serve something higher, goes hand in hand. And so everybody comes to this job every day with a core value, with all of our core values in mind. But our first core value is Ferris first. And that's what drives us, is putting the community first and making sure that we do our job as good as we can.
We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about Ferris in today's interview, but
Sure.
I want people to know that we're not just talking about this in theory. Can I ask you to share some insight about the community of Ferris, the community that you serve, so we understand how you take all these high, noble things we're talking about and apply it in the real world as city manager?
Sure. The quickest thing I can tell folks to do is to Google the city of Ferris, because what's going to happen is a D Magazine article is going to pop up. It's going to be one of the first search results that you see. And it's from right before I got to Ferris. And it's a D Magazine article titled "Ferris, the Town Where Everyone Hates Each Other." And so we went from a place that had a significant amount of animosity, not just from person to government, but from person to person. It had permeated so far into the community that we became known as the place where everyone hates each other. And so we had to, as a government, understand that that was the environment that we are walking into. And so if you don't trust your neighbor, you're not going to trust your government, certainly. And so how do we create a place that is so transparent, so open, so engaged, so committed to the community that we can turn that around? And I think that took a lot of work on our part to do. We are a 70% Hispanic community. We are 19 miles directly south of Dallas. You can get to the center of downtown Dallas in 19 minutes. Because we're on one of the most underutilized corridors in all of North Texas, which is rare. If you live in the city of Frisco, you know you can't get out of your driveway in 19 minutes, much less across town into the center of Dallas. And so, we are not an extremely affluent community. We are a community that, believe it or not, for 20 plus years had either a stagnant or declining population. And in 2019, we made a choice that we were going to be, as you described earlier, distinct by design. And that was an intentional tagline. It wasn't because it sounded good. It wasn't because it was catchy. It was because that was going to become who we were. And we have a mission that we are going to be a highly responsive government that sets the standard. And that's what we do. That's what we decided to do every single day. And so you see that in every single action that we take with our community. And it doesn't mean that they always like us. It doesn't mean that they always agree with us. It doesn't mean that we always get it right. But it certainly has changed the trajectory of our community to where we have tripled in size in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
We have seen a dramatic increase, not just in population, but in home value and investment in businesses. We are the fastest growing new value, right? New value meaning construction value city in the 8th fastest growing county in the country. And we went from being a city that had not grown in 20 plus years to what we are today. And so what I would tell people is these behaviors, this accountability, this commitment to doing things differently and being distinct, it absolutely matters as a governmental entity.
That can't be all on you. That's a partnership between you and your city council, and I imagine a team of professionals and community members who are involved as well.
You're 100% correct. I have a city council that is incredibly supportive. The mayor resigned 2 weeks before I started my job, so I interviewed. They selected me. The mayor resigned in that period in between. The mayor pro tem stepped forward, and the mayor pro tem was a leader and made a commitment to building a partnership with the city manager that was coming in, something that had not been done in the city before. In fact, Ferris had 12 city managers in a 10-year period. And so it had not been a place known for stability. I've been here 6 years. At 6 years, Ferris celebrated its sesquicentennial this last year. And at 6 years, I'm the longest serving city manager in its history. So that gives you some idea of the tumultuous relationships that have existed between manager and council. And so the city council committed to it, and they have been incredibly supportive of the work that we do. They have been incredibly respectful of the council manager form of government and understanding that their role is governance and not operations. The community, I think, has now gotten behind that because it has taken a relentless effort on the part of our council to tell community members, that is not my responsibility. That is the responsibility of a professional staff. And they practice that line and they use it. I hear them. I see them do it. And I think that that's incredibly impactful when you do, and the community begins to absorb that and understand it, because it turns a community from, I'm going to complain to the mayor who's going to make a phone call and make this happen, to understanding that there is a process and a reason behind this and a way that I can resolve it, but I have to follow a process just like everybody else does. And so we've gone from a good old boy network of who you know to structure and them respecting a professional level staff. If you were to walk in to our building and see the staff that we have been able to compile here, it rivals any large city in this state and in the country. And that's because I think of the culture that we have built. And I'm extremely proud of the people we have. We've attracted them from large cities, right? And we've gotten very professional people that typically you'd see in smaller cities. They're looking to grow into the larger city, right? And we've been able to actually do the opposite of that and attract them away from large cities to us. And one, I think it's our culture. Two, I think it is because we respect them as professionals and we allow them to do the job that they want to do, and we support them and give them the autonomy to do that. And so this has definitely been an effort, not just on me as the city manager or the city manager's office, but from our council to our community to our entire staff that has bought into this.
Brooks, could I impose upon you for one more? Do you have one more reading you could share?
Absolutely. Sure. They didn't come to the meeting. They didn't fill out the survey. They didn't attend the open house or read the long, boring newsletter where we explain the change before it ever happened. But when the problem finally reached them, when the trash wasn't picked up on time, when the dog barked too long, when the shelter was full, when the streetlight flickered, they came in swinging, with rage, with accusations, with a certainty so unshakable it no longer resembled anything close to truth. Quote, "How could you let this happen? What are we paying for? Why don't you people ever listen?" End quote. It didn't matter that the issue was caused by the very apathy that preceded the anger. It didn't matter that the budget was cut because the bond failed. that the staff position was eliminated because no one defended it, that the animal kept coming because people keep abandoning them. No one wanted to hear that because hearing it would mean accepting a deeper truth. This isn't just a government problem. It is a civic one, and it lives in the silence of the uninvolved until it explodes in the noise of the outraged. The deeper tragedy isn't what government gets wrong. It's how rarely the public acknowledges what they gave up the right to critique by never choosing to engage. Somewhere along the way, we stopped teaching that democracy is participation, not performance, that citizenship is responsibility, not just reaction, that the right to be heard comes not just from shouting loud enough, but from showing up when it matters. Because the truth is, you can't ghost the process and then rage at the result. You can't avoid the work and still expect the reward. You can't abandon your civic duty and then claim moral high ground when something breaks. We are being drowned in a culture of outrage fueled by ignorance and enabled by convenience. People want full services on half facts. They want accountability without contribution. They want perfection from systems they themselves have neglected. And it's not just wrong, it's corrosive. It breaks down the social contract. It degrades public servants. It breeds mistrust where humility and partnership should live. The government isn't perfect, but it is still showing up, still answering calls from people who won't answer ballots, still working late to fix problems they didn't cause for residents who don't want to hear an explanation, only an apology. We can do better, but only if we remember that self-governance doesn't mean screaming louder. It means showing up sooner. Blame is easy, but ownership, that's where communities are born again.
There's a question I was going to ask you, but I think I already know the answer to it. I was going to ask if another city manager or some public leader came to you because they were feeling discouraged, what would you tell them about finding meaning in their work again? And I think the answer is read my LinkedIn. So follow me and take this on an ongoing basis. It's not just a single dose of this. You need this frequently.
I think that is absolutely true. I think that, what is that, Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? You know, the book you could read and get a little bit every day to lift your spirits. I think we need that. And it's why I try to post as much as I do. I think that our profession needs somewhere to go to feel like there's people that understand and that I'm not going crazy. I'm not losing my mind. I'm not the only one, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a way out of this, and there's a way to be positive and excited about the work that we do. And I really do hope that's what the writings on LinkedIn bring to people is reality, but also opportunity. And that opportunity is an opportunity to re-embrace a profession that we all know is noble and that we love.
For people who like a more long-form version of reading, I understand you have a book. It's called Rising to Serve, Reimagining Public Administration for a New Era. Tell us about that.
I do. I've actually got two books. I've got that, and then I've got a book called Performative Outrage. It's about how manufactured fury is undermining local government. And so both of those books, particularly the one you mentioned, Rising to Serve, it's about changing the way that we perceive our roles in local government. And again, embracing what is reality, but also choosing how we can approach this differently and find the joy in the work that we do every single day. And I think that's a very lengthy book. The Performative Outrage is what I call a quick read. You could get that one done really quickly. But both are built upon what is the reality that we as city managers and public servants live in today, but then what's the roadmap forward for us and how do we conquer this? Because I think we have to be a group of courageous people that are willing to step forward and say this can be done. The option is we walk away and we let this fall apart. And I think that would be a tragedy for the profession and for the people that we serve.
Just to wrap up, I just want to say thank you. I discovered you for myself on LinkedIn. I reached out to you through LinkedIn message just to ask if you'd be willing to do this. I'm really grateful that you accepted my invitation. It's wonderful to meet you and to talk to you. And more than anything, I'm just grateful for the positive energy that you're bringing to the field of public administration. As someone who goes out and speaks and works with a lot of councils and school boards all over the country, there are not a lot of voices doing what you're doing, and what you're doing is really significant, and I applaud you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I can't thank you enough for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to share the message.
Thanks again to my guest, Brooks Williams, the city manager of Ferris, Texas. Listening to Brooks, I'm struck by the way he writes as much as the way he leads. His words carry candor, conviction, and a deep belief in the value of public service. And I have to say, I deeply appreciate the positive energy he's putting into the world of public administration, an energy that feels both rare and necessary right now. And that brings me to this week's Candid Question. I'd like to invite you to spend a few minutes looking through Brooks's LinkedIn profile. Find a line or a post that really speaks to you, something that makes you stop and think, and then call me at 602-688-2724 and leave me a message telling me what it was and why it resonated. I've included the link in the show notes to make it easy, and who knows, your response may be featured in a future episode. And while you're at it, if you'd be open to sharing the stories and lessons of your own journey to leadership, click the podcast guest link in the show notes. Your hard-earned insights may be exactly what another community leader needs to hear right now. Community Catalysts is edited by Nick Living the Dream Tantillo. Our executive producer is John Little. I'm Matt Lehrman of Social Prosperity Partners. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with another Community Catalyst.